Today I'm going to cover Azure Tags. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply a policy that I have to create a resource in Canada Central. So what I'm going to do is try to create a resource in Canada East. And it'll fail. Then I'll create it in Canada Central. So in order for me to do this, I'm going to create a policy definition to allow me to do this. As well, I'm going to create another custom policy to enforce tags. So I'm gonna have a policy that's gonna make me use a owner tag and an environment tag. And if I don't have either, it will deny me for creating the resource. Then I'll show how you can filter resources based on different tags. There's also tagging patterns that you can have. So usually like if you want to be able to find resources quickly, you can have like an owner environment of the tag. Like for example, if you have development, test, acceptance testing, a staging environment, production, pre-production. So you would have tags to label all those. You want to have an application name. So if you have a big organization, you might have multiple applications in your project. Similar for the project. Your organization might have multiple projects. So under that one project, you could have multiple different applications also running under that. So say if you had, for example, a website, like if you're Amazon, so you have your website and that's one project or one application, as well as you have a Android app and a iOS application. So those two could be three different projects doing the same feature. I'm going to create a resource group. I'm going to call it tags RG. I'm going to leave it in Canada Central. I'm going to leave the tags empty for now. I'm going to click review and create. And I'm going to create the resource group. And you can see the resource group was successfully created. I'm going to add a tag to that resource group to the tags RG. So if I select the tag here, I could type owner and put my name, Mark. And if I click apply, you'll see that the tag is here. Then if I go back to the resource group, or sorry, go back home and I select tags, you'll see that the owner Mark is showing up in the tags. Now I'm going to create a policy so that the resources can only be created in Canada Central. So I'm going to go to authoring, definitions, I'm going to search location. And have a policy for allowed locations. So I'm going to select that. And there's a parameter where it lists the location. So I'm going to select assign policy. And for the scope, I'm going to select my resource group. I'm going to leave everything else here as default. I'm going to go next. And for app parameters, I'm going to search for Canada and add Canada Central. So if I go next, I'm just going to leave everything as default. And I'm going to enter here. Please create the resource in Canada Central. Then I'm click next and create. So the policy has been created. Now I'm going to create a virtual machine. I'm going to select the tag resource group. I'm going to name the virtual machine VM1. And now I'm going to pick Canada East. And now you see, please create the resource in Canada Central. That's the message I put for the error detail. So I'm going to keep going next to see what happens. So I'm going to leave everything as defaults. And now I'm going to click review and create. And see here it says validation failed. And says it was disallowed by the policy. Policy allowed locations. So if you look at the error, I pick Canada East. And the reason for it is I have to create it in Canada Central. So now I'm going to go back to basics. I'm going to put back to Canada Central. And I'm going to select no structure for the availability zones. So now I'm just going to skip to, actually, no, I'm going to make sure networking set first. So it's okay. Now I'm going to click review and create. And the validation passed. So now I could create the virtual machine. Oh, sorry. I skipped a step. So for the authentication type for password, I'm just going to the username, password. So now I'm going to go back to review and create and create the virtual machine. So the virtual machine just got created. So now I'm going to create a custom policy definition. So I'm going to go to definitions. I'm going to select policy definition. I'm going to select the resource group. I'm going to call this one tests mandatory tags. Testing, the description is be testing mandatory tags. I'm going to use an existing category. Or sorry, yeah, use existing category. I'm going to select tags. For here, there's a example policy definition. So basically, I initially used this as the template with some examples from Azure. So I'm just going to delete the template they have here and paste the one that I created. So the all off means that it has to match all these roles. So I have to have an existing owner tag and environment in order for it to be able to create the resource. If I'm missing these tags, it's going to deny creating the resource. So everything's filled out right. So I'm going to save this one. And I'm going to sign the policy. So I'm going to leave everything here as default. I'm going to select next. I'm going to type owner here and environment in here. Remediation, I'm just going to leave this default. I'm going to type, please enter the owner and environment. And I'm click next. And I'm click select create. So for any of the policies, you may have to wait 10 minutes in order for the policy to take effect. You can see here I have one assignment for mandatory tags and the two parameters. So the owner is a string and the environment's a string. So it's expecting one value for each. So now I'm going to create a virtual machine, then a storage account. So when I create this virtual machine, I'm going to add a tag to it. So I'm going to add this to the tag resource group. I'm going to call this VM2. And for availability zone, known for structure. And for the password, I'm going to enter password and username. For the disks, I'm going to change it to dev test. Networking, I'm going to leave it as default. So now I'm going to just skip to review and create. And because I skipped the tagging, I am going to get a validation failed. So I'm going to select this one. This doesn't really give too much information, except for the policy, test mandatory tags. But the raw error, it says here, template deployment failed with multiple errors. Please see details for more information. And skip down here. It was disallowed by policy. Reasons, please enter the owner and environment. So now I'm going to go back a page. I'm going to select the owner and it's already filled out for me. So I'm just going to leave this one. And now I'm going to enter environment. And I'm going to call this one the dev environment. So now I'm going to go to review and create. And the validation passed. So now I'm going to create this resource. the resource just got created. So I'm gonna go home. I'm also gonna go back to the virtual machine one, or VM1 I created, and go to tags. I'm gonna add the owner, which is Mark, and environment. And I'm gonna call this one TST. And I'm gonna apply the tags. Now I'm gonna create a storage account. I'm going to change the resource group to the tag RG, tags RG. And I'm just going to call this one Madman0001, and it looks like everything's okay. Primary source, I'm going to select Azure Blob or Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. I'm going to just select locally redundant storage. For advanced, I'm just going to leave everything as default. I'm going to disable public access. Data protection, just so it's easier for me to delete this after. I'm going to disable everything. For encryption, I'm going to leave as default. And for the tags, I'm going to select owner and put me as the owner. And environment, I'm going to put this one as TST for test. I'm going to go review and create. And I'm going to create the storage account. If I forgot to put either one, it should fail as well, because it's the tags should work everywhere. The storage account just got created. You can see it here. Now I'm going to select the tags. And you can see I have the different tags. So if I select the owner mark, you see I own all these different resources. And let's close this one. For the dev tag for the environment, I have all these resources. And for the TSD, I have this VM1 and this tied to the storage account tied to the TSD environment. So if you notice here for the VM, I'm missing a whole batch of items compared to the dev environment when I created the virtual machine. I'm missing my public IP address, the network security group, and the networking interface, as well as the disk, because I didn't add the tag when I created the resource at the same time. So that's something you have to be careful about when you're creating the tags. Now I'm going to delete all the resources. Copy the tag resource group, apply force delete. And it should take a couple of minutes to delete all the resources. Now I'm going to go to network watcher resource group. And I'm going to delete this one as well. the all the resource groups have been deleted, or all the resources have been deleted. So for refresh, everything's gone. The only thing I have to mention is that anytime you create a policy, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to actually create the policy. So when I edit the video, it's going to look like it was done really quickly, but really it took about 10 to 15 minutes for the policy to kick in most cases. And that concludes the demonstration.